Okay, thank you. A lot of pressure to go last. Yeah, I'm Eric. I work here at Figma. Welcome. Okay, my talk today is called The Future of Learning is CRISPR. It's actually a live link. I vibe slided this, which you guys should all check out. Figma Link, go for it. Okay, Future of Learning is CRISPR. It's a little cheeky of a title. It's going to be an analogy, stick with me. For those that know what CRISPR is a gene editing technology that allows you to take out part of a DNA and genome and replace it with something else. You're not replacing the entire genome. You're doing editing selectively at different points. My kind of point today is that learning teams in the future are going to do this editing for what we would call like workplace DNA, how we work at companies. We're not necessarily going to redo the entire operating model, but bit by bit, start to reprogram people's behaviors, whether it's onboarding or upskilling programs, so that you kind of adapt to a workplace DNA. What does that mean? Okay, company DNA. So today, companies kind of have a DNA. It's like aspirational. A leader will say, we have these cultural values. Here's how I want to work. But we don't actually know how companies work very well. We have an idea. We have aspirations. We see some ways. A lot of it's really mysterious. But they work differently, right? For anyone that's worked at different companies, there's different ways that things happen. There's different ways of doing things. What's going to happen, what is happening now, in my opinion, is that companies are codifying exactly how we work. Microsoft through Teams, email, all these tools, Salesforce, Slack, they own Slack, Google, all these companies are going to be able to tell your leaders very soon how many emails you send in, how many hours you're in a meeting, who you're meeting with, how many times you go to Notion, how many times you go to Figma, how many times you do a GitHub commit. Across every role, this data exists. We would call this unstructured data. Now it's going to be structured data, and it's going to be sold and commodified back to your leaders. Those leaders can decide what to do with that with managers, but it's going to come. Then there's going to be a gap between this is how I want my company to work, and this is how I'm finding out that we are working. I would love that we're in meetings 7 hours a day, so let's do less meetings, more racing things on Slack, more racing through some documents. So there's going to be a bridge time where we're looking at the aspirational versus the real, and I think this is the first opportunity for learning teams. So I think this happens next year and for the next year after that, where learning teams are making this gap, bridging the gap between how we work today and how CEOs, VPs want their companies or organizations to work. This is the first reprogramming we're going to do, and it's going to be bit by bit, right? Do we do meetings? How do we write? How do we do things? But importantly, it's going to be super specific to the company or place that you work. And you're going to be able to program this differently and say, this company does a lot of writing, this company does a lot of whisper flow, it doesn't do any writing, we talk about everything out, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. And it's not just these companies that are doing it. There's a great startup that's around the corner called Windmill. How many of you use one of these very poorly screenshotted tools every day? Yeah, every one of us, guaranteed. This isn't even like an Alan Deacon, there's more articulate on here, right? They have an API call that brings every single one of these tools and how much you access into a central database. Now, they're doing a really cool job where they're not trying to be Big Brother about this. They're trying to empower managers so managers have an idea of how their people use time. Then they're going to go layer up and go to VPs, and they're going to go layer up and go to the CEO. And then that CEO is going to say, I don't love this, change this for me. Go back to that chart and move around how fast we move, how we make decisions, how we do these things, right? Okay, so that is going to be the workplace DNA of the future. And bit by bit, again, we start to CRISPR edit it as a workplace DNA. What does this mean for us at large? So again, the first next year or two, I think, is doing this first reprogramming. Beyond that, we start to look at context over skills. Several of you have talked about feedback workshops. Ostensibly, we're kind of all doing the same feedback workshops. Company to company, we're taking the same one, better, worse versions of different companies. You're going to have to start thinking of, here's how we do feedback at Figma. Here's how we do feedback at this company. And it's going to be different and then start to be radically different at different companies as we think about what that workplace DNA is going to look like. This comes at another time where AI is going to start to make several skills obsolete. So context is actually going to be the sort of mega skill that we can have as human beings and how we work in organizations. The context is going to be codified. This is not going to be an abstraction of like, I think I'm doing a good job working here. There's going to be a real way of like, you are in too many meetings. You are doing this too much, too little. I think it's learning development's great opportunity to be the change makers in what that looks like. In going to that leader and saying, if you want to change the behavior at large, at scale, across your organization, person by person, bit by bit, CRISPR, gene, segment by segment, we can be the team that does that, right? We can be the team that helps people contextualize to their environment so that your company looks like your company, and all the people coming from different companies get nicely reprogrammed or sort of genome edited into being operators of this new company. So I think that's our opportunity in the future, and I'm excited about the changes.